Do you remember any styles learning that I mentioned yesterday, more general? One of them was visual. What about the others? Sorry? Oral, yes. Yeah, oral. So that are on the screen, by the way. So refresh your memory. So these are more general styles. We are all like this. What do you think about yourself? Do you tend to be more logical, more social, more oral, more visual? Yeah. Solitary. You would be more solitary.
Concentrate on a book.
Yeah, you need to take your own time, just outside.
On time and to go back, read again.
Yeah.
It's more difficult for me to follow oral, I think.
You need more
teaching.
time to reflect.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
I hope this doesn't mean that I'm a slow-minded.
Yeah. Is
it the same?
no.
No,
So we usually tend to have. Sorry.
Or our age, our phase of life.
So we tend to have usually two dominant styles. Two dominant. There may be another one, third or fourth, which is like a secondary, which kind of is used. But these are more generalized. So I also showed you, if you remember, this kind of theoretical and very practical at the same time approach, which is called experiential learning. It suggests four main groups of learning styles, and each of these combines actually some of these that I showed you previously. For example, the first one, the diverging, the reflector, would be more visual, would be more oral in some cases, would be more social. So several different aspects are combined in one of these. I'm not going to get deeper into that because it is a very complex kind of matter. So we'll simply focus on the titles that I used here. Reflector, the first one. Theorist, more analytical, and not very interested in the pragmatic or practical aspects. So then the activist, with emphasis on practice and hands-on experience. And finally, the so-called pragmatist, who is always searching for new solutions. And so I showed you this one and discussed, feeling, thinking, reflecting, and doing as a part of a common cycle. When we teach students or anyone, younger, older, we always have to consider all these and do something to engage our audience's thinking, feeling, asking them to do something, and of course, to reflect, to ponder upon that. In this kind of theoretical experiential cycle, it is very important to make space for different activities, for different kind of mental engagement of the member of the audience. First, it is the learner's experience of the associated problem. We just commented or discussed that. If I speak about something, I usually ask students to share their own experience, their own experience from real practice. If I'm explaining, whatever, so then I ask, have you experienced that? When did it happen? How did it happen? Who was involved? What happened at the end? What was the result? So always, engaging personal kind of reflection and personal experiences, effective and productive. Friendly education environment. Do you think that this environment is friendly now?
Yes.
Yeah. Is it formal? Yeah. Formal environment, for example, Bulgarian schools maintain very high level of formality. Teacher is, I mean, government schools. Teachers are kind of somewhere there in front, lecturing, explaining theoretical concepts. Students are disengaged, passive, so just doing something on their telephones. I'm not sure if it is still the same because I haven't been, you know.
Even worse.
Yeah, but these are cultural aspects and they do not change easily. It takes lots of time. So they are not engaged. There is no friendly approach, no personal touch, and no personal engagement. So if it is like this, they do not notice the problems. If they do not notice the problems, they do not understand the problems. So speaking to, it is the same in Turkey, I guess, similar in Romania, in Greece, and in Armenia, in Georgia, the same thing. We are sharing same problems, by the way. And it is a matter of social organization, high level of formality, which actually does not facilitate effective learning. So try to, when you are communicating with students or any kind of audience, try to decrease the level of formality. Keep more informal, or depending on the age, on, you know, the social status of people. So we always consider this kind of things. Conversational practice, sharing experiences. You can see I'm always asking questions. Conversation. So conversation turns into a discussion, and it always has something emotional into that. If somebody is feeling like answering a question, it means that they're experiencing it. They feel something about that. If they feel something, they will notice the problem and they may want to understand it. Gaining knowledge and expertise. So how can we share our knowledge and expertise if people do not listen to us? Impossible. So that's actually the main point. But teachers in our schools understand education as actually mainly and only gaining knowledge. That's it. What about the others? The other approaches, I mean. Acting and reflecting, always doing something. I usually try to include in my classes some kind of lots of activities, of course, and thinking about the problems, but also I'm trying to move, to make students move around the classroom, to move physically, because they're still very young. Come in, morning. And even older people need kind of some rest and some physical, you know, movement. Nobody can stay like this, seated for 90 minutes. It is not a very good approach. Do you know how much, you surely know, how much you can stay focused on a subject? Yeah, they say that usually human brain can get, you know, maintain focus on, you know, specific around 20 minutes. And so then what happens after that?
Blind spot.
Shut off, shut off. That's it. So that's why we need to fill this gap and just give, put a stop, give a pause or something like that. And then we can start a new topic actually. Yeah. Just that's why we can kind of change activities. First lecturing something, then of course doing some more active group work, pair work, then again lecturing. So just changing the approaches during this 90 minutes. How long are your sessions at university? 90 minutes? 45. And you have a break? Because ours are 90 minutes. Andy, how did you feel within 90 minutes? Like this kind of sessions? Very difficult. Yeah. And to focus. Yeah. Yeah. That's why I will ask you later on, for example, just to gather together with somebody else in groups and move around the room, sit together and start a discussion together. This is one simple approach. Many things could be done. So just to make people listen, because nobody can listen for more. Sustainable listening, active listening is very short, with a very short span. So we need to change the activities. That's feeling and thinking. To me, feeling and emotional approach is extremely important. I'll try to get emotionally with you, with everyone. And I always watch your audience's faces, eyes speak. They always say what is behind here. So you can read, people. If you see that somebody is not feeling well, so you will do something about that. You can offer them to leave the room or just take their time, so this personal touch and engagement helps a lot. People trust you. If they trust you, they listen to you. So that's extremely important. Taking responsibility of own learning, we try to do, actually we do lots of self-study. I don't know how your schools work, but we are trying to do it more student-centered. I will explain some things in the classroom, but students will have to do lots of things by themselves. It could be a research of a topic or another task, many things, preparing something, presentation, and then to share their kind of outcome or the results with the class, with the group. If we are engaging them more with the self-study, so then I've noticed that the results are much better than if they rely only on the teacher. The teacher is not the main source of information. The teacher's role is to guide, mainly. I will show you what roles we kind of have. So these are the 4 roles that we may take when talking to people or sharing ideas. We may be the expert, like sharing your own theoretical knowledge about something or your knowledge about a subject. Everybody has, what to share. So the expert will select the best reading for the age, for the specific target group that we have. This is on us, on the teachers or lecturers. So we have to explain the problems and to explain the theoretical models, but this is in our role as an expert. And if we keep only to that role of an expert, then there is no full cycle of learning, because the expert at the time should turn into a coach. The coach's role is to kind of think about interesting, stimulating activities that to be integrated into the learning process, to decide on the topics as well, and to provide guidance and feedback. In all our countries, students need feedback. Without feedback, they feel lost. This is cultural aspect. I will mention that later on. It's not only about students. At work, it is the same. If you do not get feedback from the employer, feedback could be a bonus. Feedback could be praising you for, having done a specific task perfectly. It could be salary increase. It could be just a simple appreciation. Without feedback, we don't feel well. And this is encouraging and actually motivating. I saw you're smiling, which means that you don't get such a feedback from your employers. Is it true?
Yes.
You see?
I just told him to pay attention because it's an important
Topic. You can explain that to your employer after this experience, but I don't think that they will understand. They have to go through such a training. Yeah. Send them to me. So then we play the role of evaluator. So we are all evaluators in a specific way, assigning anything, tasks, group presentations, anything that we used to at work, it would be assigning job tasks. So that's easy. Designing projects, creating, case studies or open-ended problems, tests and quizzes, not just evaluating, using this multiple choice tests. This is not a very good approach. In your schools, do they still use lots of multiple choice tests? So students have to choose A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, and that's it. Or you don't know? A combination, yeah. So there should be kind of combination. But I remember times when it was the main testing approach. How students do not learn anything. It's just like a betting game. This is here I'll check A, the next one could be B. So that's it. No personal engagement. So, and finally, and the most important to me is the role of a motivator. Actually, my understanding, and according to the science that I research, we cannot motivate people. We can only encourage, because motivation is internal. It comes from inside. We cannot get inside in this one. So that's why we push, encourage. Yes, you've done a great job. Years ago, because our university is in a partnership with a university in Cardiff in Wales, and we strictly follow their British kind of standards of evaluation, assessment, anything that comes to mind. And at the very beginning, they criticized us on, when writing feedback, it was extremely negative. For example, a teacher or professor writes, your work is very poor, so the approach is absolutely inapplicable, and things like this. So we were criticized for that, because you can say this same things, but in a more positive way. You could say the work or your approach could be improved in a way, instead of saying that it is very poor, or it could have been done, in a different way. So instead of using negative forms, just to use positive. Yeah. Instead of saying you're very stupid, you can say, please work on your kind of logical understanding of things. But unfortunately, these things again come from culture, family. If you've heard your parents saying nothing will get out of you, or you're a total failure, actually you'll transfer this approach to your teaching and to your management if you're a manager, and to your kind of job roles, whatever you do. Very interesting. I read several articles on the most preferred learning style when talking about the field of agriculture. In your case, for example, your students, what is their main program of study? What do they study? Irrigation. This is in the field of agriculture. Yes. So, and several large studies found out that most students, that was international sample, most students are actually possessing two main dominant styles of thinking and learning. And this is, like I summarized it for you, reflectors and activists. These are their two main approaches to solving problems. Actually, they do not have much time to make conclusions. They chop the wood, let's say, or dig the garden. And if there is a problem, they try immediately to find a solution to that one. They do not have too much time to organize their conclusions, to think too long on them and stuff. So they try to find pragmatic solutions through practice. They think while working. So that's the most interesting thing here. And I have put some different kind of approaches that could be suitable for this type of students or people who are engaged in the field of farming, agriculture, anything that comes to mind in this industry. When teaching or training them, we, as reflector and activists, we should definitely encourage them to ask questions and express personal opinions. Do you do that in your work when working with people? You do. So that's a good, yeah, many times. Yeah. Actually, we have to do it constantly, all the time. So encourage unconventional ideas because they are reflectors. They have imagination, a very expressed imagination, unconventional, non-standard ideas, not by the book, what they have read. Just let them express, any crazy idea that they may have. If they can share it in public, so it becomes like interesting for everyone, and everyone starts thinking more actively on the problems. Encourage collaboration and group work. Spoke about that. All our countries here, students are social learners, most of them. There are very rarely we have students that are not that social. In most cases, they will try to, they usually feel more secure when they're in groups because they do not have to take individual personal responsibility, When two of you are working together or three, who is taking the responsibility? Three of you, which is much easier than just you yourself. So that's why they feel happy to exchange ideas, and they feel more brave actually when sharing ideas within a group. Do you know what the best number of people is for a group when you're making groups? How many students? 3 is a very good number, maximum 4, as they say. They say if there are more than 5, then that group will separate into 2, smaller groups, because it becomes a larger kind of group and they're not that inclined to share ideas if the group is too big. Also encourage brainstorming, role play and games, which is extremely important because it suggests some movement around the kind of room, whatever, in more emotional input there would be into that one. I have prepared such a exercise today. If we have some time, please inform me about the timing. The so-called think, pair, and share technique is kind of common teaching technique. For example, you can give them a pair, so a task for 2 students who have to prepare something outside class. And first they will start, each of them starts with an idea, they share their ideas, prepare something, and then on the next day or next class they can present, their common solutions. As I always said, visualization for the students in the classroom that are more visual. Whatever you can visualize, visualize it. Graphs, pictures, show them books, videos, yes. So anything that comes, ask them to share their own pages from social media. If they have something interesting to show related to the topic, ask them to share. They're very cautious, by the way. Most of them do not want to share their own. But it is topic related, why not? It will show themselves engaged in a particular problem. Self-reflection, this is a very common practice with us. The self-reflection, we usually combine almost every assignment with a process of self-reflection. If they have to prepare a presentation on climate change, after that they will have to write a half a page or 1 page reflective essay on how they felt when preparing the presentation, what they learned, what could be done. So things like this, how they felt emotionally about, this is self-reflection. Involve learners in new hands-on experience. This is actually the biggest problem to me. Experiments and exploration of specific content. In social sciences, it is easy. So we explore, experiment. Yesterday, I did, no, the day before yesterday, I asked them to, we kind of discussed differences in cultural values between different cultural groups. And I gave them a quiz which is used by a large scientific platform. And I asked them to choose a section of questions, so a set of questions that they may like to interview all the members of all the students in the class. Some of them chose a set of questions which relates to corruption. Some of them chose a set of questions related to happiness, others to health, kind of life satisfaction. But because there are many, so this is a very big question of 400 questionnaire of 400 questions altogether. Lots of things inside, violence, many things are. And based on their own preferences, they actually chose a specific topic. And then everybody with their own question sat next to everyone in the classroom and asked them those questions. How happy are you these days? This is about life satisfaction. From 1 to 10, how happy are you? How happy are you? From 1 to 10. 6, 7. You guys, 10. Give us some kind of idea. Yes. You, how happy are you? You look happy. Yeah. 7. And usually, so what they gathered, they had to gather at least 10 answers and to make their own simple statistics, to calculate percentage and then to try to find a pattern. Who is happier? Is that the French? Because there was a big group of French students, big group of Spanish students, big group of Italian students, one Japanese, one Chinese, some Ukrainians, some, many of them, at least 12 as I remember. And they found out that the French were the happiest. So the student reported, they immediately reported that to the class that the French seemed to be the happiest because, yeah, most of them answered that they're happy and all they were above 7, 8, 9, 10. About corruption. So then we got very interesting conversations after that because they tried to reflect on why people from that specific kind of target group are more happier or more satisfied or more corrupted. They immediately, one of the students compared corruption in Bulgaria and China. And the conclusion was China is much more corrupted than Bulgaria, which was surprising, But how do you see your country? Is your country corrupted? If I ask you how much percentage, something, there is such an index, about that. Yeah. Well, is Bulgarian kind of system? Percent. Romania, corruption? 2,000. Okay. No, I know the answers. I know the indices, So they're very high in all our countries. This comes from somewhere, and it is related to thinking, but actually this social problematic always engages students' mind when they feel it at the individual level, when it becomes personal. You're checking the index of corruption. Are you checking the index of corruption? I didn't include it intentionally here. Yeah. So we can compare anything, but corruption is not. So sometimes I'm trying to find images and pictures that in some way may be shocking. These are not like this. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And I usually show them some shocking images of something or shocking videos and ask them to find examples from their own reality, the same shocking as, but from their own perspective to illustrate the problems. So this again kind of stimulates emotional engagement. Yeah, the ugly side of.
I'm very sorry. We cannot hear the other's voice. Please, if you are doing discussion.
Okay, okay.
I say that in the primary school is good to see students, the students picture like this, ugly pictures,
Yes.
because some psychologists said it is difficult to explain these pictures.
That's why we're using kind of feeling. Feeling, emotion, not feeling, emotion is extremely important. When you are successful in making, audience have something like and raises an emotional output here in the brain. So yeah, each of these kind of expresses a particular aspect. And here I have prepared one very emotional video. I will not play it now, after the session if we have some time. Yeah, so extremely kind of interesting. You can watch it by yourself after that. So, but that is the main purpose, to engage the mind into the problem of the world, the whole globe, which is disappearing now, going to an end, thanks to our own activity. What we do is to damage, the nature and the globe. Here I have included an example of experiential learning lesson. For example, we can start with a lecture, the way that we usually do, but well visualized. Just text. Do you know some basic rules? Because we all use PowerPoint presentations. So this is kind of common practice. It may be boring to students now. Every teacher or lecturer, trainer showing presentations, but this is the only thing is that we can change PowerPoint with, let's say, Canva or some other software to create a more creative PowerPoint, more creative presentations. Do you know how much text there should be on a slide? How much, if in terms of words, how many words on? Yes. Yeah. Okay. That's a good approach. Yeah. Anybody else? When I see a presentation with, lots of text on it, this one actually contains, because your slides of this template are not very good for this type of social science. Yeah. So the rule is no more than, let's say, 40 words. 40 words maximum on a slide. If there is, this is not a reader. it should be just to attract attention. So PowerPoint is for visuals. It's not for text. Text should be minimal. Short phrases, keywords only. What we do, because we need, some support, we put more text, which is actually has the opposite effect on the learner. So then after such a visualized lecture, there could be a test, subjective test. I can create a test with 3 questions, and we'll give you some time to answer those questions. Or we'll make a short multiple choice quiz, and we'll run it through Google Quiz, the software. So students like that. On their telephones, they do the quiz, and it is a part of right. So then after the test, they compare their answers and try to find, the problems and initiate discussion. They will have to comment on, the mistakes that they have made. Actually, this is kind of a reflective cycle from the experiential cycle, the reflective part, which is which lead to reflective observation. After that, you can assign, as it says, a project presentation is a homework task. So for tomorrow, if I assign you today, let's say, self-study task to prepare a presentation on the main problems in the field of agriculture in your country. Prepare a presentation for tomorrow. So they should be related to the topic, actually. Then on the next kind of day, they can continue their presentations in class. Students love it. Actually, everybody loves it. They take turns in groups and present to their, classmates, the other students. And I additionally put a focus on this peer evaluation. I ask them to evaluate each other. First, to evaluate their own performance, of course, based on criteria, and then to evaluate the presentations or performance of their friends in the class. And I have noticed that students from some particular countries are more generous towards their own cultural group. Their own cultural group. Actually, for example, Russians would give higher marks to the Ukrainians because we have lots of students in the same class like this. Or the Portuguese will give higher marks to the Spanish. At the same time, they fight with each other. You understand how it works? So same software. Yeah. If we have in a class students from all our countries here, and within a very big, large audience, they will support each other. Turkish will support the Bulgarians or, the Romanians, whatever, just because we belong to the same region. This is kind of connection which is here encoded in the brain. Okay, so presenting in class, I mentioned self-assessment and peer evaluation. I just spoke about that. So, and now the next part, I'll briefly go through that. Yesterday, I mentioned that people think and learn in a way which is predisposed or influenced by their personality as individual. But there is also a very important factor, which influences learning and thinking, and this is the culture in which we were raised and born. Greek culture, Turkish culture, Bulgarian culture, so Armenian, Georgian, they're very similar, but different at the same time. Think about social institutions, about education system, about health system, about how we have organized our society. And when we observe, the performance of each kind of cultural social group, we usually have a look at different factors like GDP per capita, not the national one. GDP, gross domestic product. We measure the index of corruption. We measure the index of happiness, which is very important. We measure life expectancy, how long we are expected to live. We measure many different Gini index, which measures the inequality in distribution of income, for example. Many things can speak about how effective and productive we are in organizing our societies and kind of having a more satisfactory life, how able we are to organize it. So to understand how people think, we first need to understand who we are, in what group we were born. These things are usually associated with our family of origin. You like the topic of the idea and, this kind of project on climate change, because you have been kind of raised in a family related to agriculture and farming. So this comes from the family, actually. So then our race, there is always differentiation. Even if we are becoming more tolerant, people are still intolerant to different races. If there are some people from Nigeria or somewhere in Africa, they immediately will say that they felt some kind of subtle, rejection from someone in the group. And they freely speak about that. If I ask them, we talk about race, as a factor, and say, yes, I always feel, some kind of racism in others. Institutions, as I said, are organized in the way we kind of think and perceive the world. Geography is important. Gender is important. We speak a lot about gender differences. Women, men, always kind of problem which exists for thousands of years. It cannot be solved within, let's say, 1 century. Obviously. So religion is extremely important. Sexuality, the generation to which we belong, our physical abilities, our nationalities, language, our languages, they act as code. They're actually symbolic codes to express our thinking. Education, educational system, the organization at work. So business organization is also a kind of projection of social structure. You see this iceberg there. Culture is like an iceberg. Only 10% is above the surface. What is seen? We meet someone from Japan and we see their physical appearance. We listen to what they say, some kind of ordinary phrases that we exchange. We see their clothes that are all the same. Students from all around the world, they wear the same clothes, actually, same fashion, same styles, following same fashion trends, but eventually 90% is hidden. You don't know what is beneath their belief, what they believe, how they see the world, what is right for them, what is wrong for them, what norms they follow. If I ask a girl from Uzbekistan, can you have a boyfriend before getting married? No, this is impossible even to think about that. If I ask a French student, can you have a boyfriend, before getting married? Just why not? I'm searching. It's a long process. So absolutely different perception. So culture is that fixed software of the mind that distinguishes us from another cultural group. So in here, I'm not getting very deep into that, but I'll mention only that the values that we share within a particular group are extremely important for, the way we think, learn, and view the world. The values. Values is what is important to you in your life? Think about what your parents taught you when you were young. What did they teach you? Did they teach you hard work? Huh? Well, the Bulgarian culture is like this, hard work. Yeah. Did they teach you to respect the older people? That's for sure. In Turkey, you still kiss the hand of the elderly, right? Yeah, of course, in Turkey. It used to be like that in Bulgaria until, let's say, 30 years ago. So following, maybe, yeah. Social status, is it important to you? Everybody, social status. Yes, to you yourself. Did your parents tell you, teach you to go to school, to university, to become, director, boss of some? Yeah, everywhere it is the same. Come on. So lots of values, by the way, like this. I'm not going to get much into that. And in general, these affect our cognitive ability. How we analyze, synthesize information, how we structure, the knowledge and stuff. So it comes from those values that we have encoded. So these things, by the way, are measured, and I'll just mention two main factors that are valid all around the world, how the societies are organized, the most important factors. One of them is how we treat power, those in power. As I said, dependence on superiors and dealing with the basic problem with human inequality. Do you think that people in your country are equal? There is no such a country in the world. Highest achievable, this is measured, by the way, in economy by the so-called Gini index. Gini index measures, how resources are kind of distributed. No ideal kind of form of equality in the world. So we are all unequal. No such a society with full equality. We're unequal. But the question is, how much, to what degree is the inequality that exists? When there is big inequality, then all resources go into hands of one person or few people. And there are some countries in which they have managed somehow, thanks to their values, to organize their societies in a more justful way. Not perfect, but still justful. As they say that they have built communism in the Nordic countries, Scandinavia. They have a form of kind of more tolerable inequality. So more equal in a way. Anyway, and the other factor is the balance between the individual and the group. So in some countries, the individual is not important. Do you think that in Russia, the individual is important, a single person? No.
One person is important.
Power distance, that's called high power distance. Hold all power in the hands of one person. The others, no significance at all. So there is a very interesting topic. I'm not going to talk about dehumanization and stuff, but there are countries in which actually the interests of the group are much more important than those of the individual. And everything is done for the sake of the group success. The group is important. All our countries are like this. Maybe Greece is a little bit less, but these are called collectivist countries. Collectivist countries that at work, at school, institutions, everything is organized in a way which actually suppresses the individual expression, self-expression, and kind of expects group input. That's why group work in class is extremely important, because students feel more secure within the group. They don't have to make their own decisions. When you make your own decisions, you take responsibility. And taking responsibility is not typical for our cultures. Anyway. So the first one about power, as I said, how power is distributed is called power distance. And as you can see, darker green is about countries that are extremely power distant. Power in the hands of few or one person. The greenest, darkest green, this map, by the way, is made at least 10 years ago. This is a huge scientific platform. Lots of scientists work in this field. The darkest green, even years ago, was in Russia. You see that? Power, extremely. Now the common average salary in Russia is around, I don't know, but they say 200 euro. For the normal, ordinary people in Siberia, in different kind of parts. I'm giving it as an example, but lots of other places in the world can be kind of mentioned in this case with the same treatment. And you see the lightest green, they're in the Northwest Europe, Australia down there, Canada, and US. If we check their GDP per capita, gross domestic product, we'll see that it is highest. And we'll have some, do you know what is the GDP per capita in your country? I guess here we have Greece with the highest GDP per capita. Shrinking, but still when you compare it to the others. Yeah, so as far as I remember, yeah. As far as I remember. The other one, as I said about the group belonging and who is more important, whose needs are more important than the individual or the group, is called collectivism, individualism, and this is the map of the world. The more individualist, in which individual is more important than the group, is in darker purple. You see, same. Those that are kind of less power distance are more individualist. One thing, you know that, for example, in Germany or in England, if you want to visit your mother, to see her, you have to call her in advance. To have an appointment with your mom, yeah, just to fix a day and the time to visit her, to ask her how you are and stuff. What about in Turkey? The door is always open. Yeah, you can even live in the same house, even if you are, yeah. This is the same everywhere with us. Greece, Armenia, Georgia, Turkey, Bulgaria. So we all behave in the same way. Family is extremely important. You will never ask your mother, can I come and see you, please? When would it be? Yeah, would it be? So this is actually, but this is a code for kind of specific pattern of behavior, decision making. That's why in England, when their children get 18, they'll have to leave home, and everywhere in these parts that I show you, darker color, they just have to leave home. And with us, what is the situation? They can live with us until we die. No problem. They will not feel uncomfortable, and we won't feel uncomfortable either. So same thing. Some differences I have mentioned here. I will not go that much deep into that. At work, in societies like ours, more collectivist and more power distance, we expect our boss to make the decisions. The boss is not encouraging us to make decisions and to make our, by the way, in our institution, because we're an international institution, it is like this. Our boss, of course, is making the main decisions, but we are very much pushed, encouraged to decide for ourselves.
Actually, we are pushed to suggest different solutions.
Yes, this may be because of our internationalization. We're very international, and one person cannot solve all the, because they're very specific problems. Lots of people with different approaches and ideas are needed, maybe because of that. And in what else? Something interesting. Social status. I mentioned that once. In our society, social status is very important. And such a person will be more important, very important person. If you, in the other world, for example, in Finland, it is not important at all if you are the prime minister of the country. The prime minister would be Tara, or I don't remember her name. And nobody is looking at her as someone who is in high power. In Bulgaria, that person is in very high power, extremely important. The same in all our countries. You understand what I mean? Yeah. So actually, the focus in the individualist is on the person. In our type of societies, it is on the job, on the position. Yeah, the person is not important, but the label. Yeah. Social status. So I'm not, you will read this, they're very interesting. Here I included some differences in classroom interaction. Why our students expect the teacher to talk all the time? Because we have adopted for centuries this system, teacher centered. Teacher in front, explaining. So that's why our grandparents has gone through that system. Our parents has gone through, our children. So everybody expects this same approach. If you want to break the pattern and to change it, they start feeling uncomfortable. So it is step by step. So, and when thinking about different learning styles, as I said, people are, the context is never, never consists of one of the same type of learners. So they're always mixed. So that's why we have to apply different approaches to mix them. So if you apply more visualization, it will appeal to students with more visual, more divergent and stuff. So then at the next step, you're going to engage other kind of activities. In your country, do you think that it is acceptable for older people to learn? At this age, can you do, let's say at 50, can you do a master degree? You are not listening. But this is one case. Yeah. It is not that typical. In Bulgaria, for example, nobody expects someone 40, 50 years old to do a master degree or to engage in some kind of educational practices to increase their degree. What do you think about that? Greece is individualizing, that's why. Yeah. 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 More and more. Very good point. Yeah. Microphone.
Can you
Yes,
maybe
we
use the mic?
will give the microphone. Okay.
In the public sector, there are some, how can I say it? Like there is a way that if you have like a master's degree, you get, it's like a point system to increase your position or your salary. For example, if you have a master's degree, you get 2 more points. If you have a second master's,
Yeah.
you get 3 more points. So it's becoming more.
So this means that the social system encourages
it's changing,
people,
it's starting to encourage it,
motivates them to continue their kind of process of learning.
mostly,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so based on what you're saying here, I'll mention that because Greece is kind of more, the GDP per capita is higher per person than the others. Countries that grow faster economically actually encourage people to individualize. They are better able to satisfy individual needs, which happened in China, by the way. 20 years ago, China was extremely collectivist because people were paid very little money on their work. And now we have China uh, kind of boosting economically. Their national GDP is extremely high, very high. And the Communist Party cannot escape, from raising salaries. So they're very well off, the Chinese now. So they're better able to travel around the world, to spend more money on food, which they actually lack in the past. And they are becoming more individualistic in a way. I can see this in our Chinese students that we have. This is not the same Chinese student that used to be years ago, for example. The same thing happens with us. People are individualizing because they are better well off and better able to satisfy their individual needs. So when you have satisfied your physical needs, then you can think about intellectual development and growth. But this requires money, means resource, and of course, motivation to continue. Anyway, well, the last thing that I wanted to mention related to the topic of, and one very interesting thing about certificates and diplomas. In more individualist countries, knowledge will be more, and skills will be more important than the diploma itself. While with us, it is very important to have the diploma. It's not that important what is behind that diploma, what kind of knowledge is behind this. Would you agree with that? Yeah.
Master.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's a necessity to take a diploma like this.
Yeah. They
Why?
don't need it.
Why?
Yeah,
Because in some years after of that, all of the students have masters to
Same
take
in
a
Bulgaria.
job. After that, I think it is the quality of the.
What is behind that?
Yes.
Yeah. Social status.
Okay.
It is about social status. You just want to buy social status to be more respected. It's a matter of respect. It's not about, as I said, about learning style. You don't think about the practical application of this kind of. It is more about the symbol that you get of status. Label. Okay.
No, I mean, if you decide to have to go for a master degree at the age of 40, for example, this might be based on your working experience and some specialty
This
that
is
you
great.
further need.
Yeah.
But at younger ages, I mean, after university, after gaining
Absolutely
a
agree.
bachelor degree, then you might just say, okay, I will do a master. I don't know why, it sounds good, might open some doors, but you might not need that particular specialty because you don't know what your working career, how your working career will evolve.
Yeah.
So when you go for a master at the age of 40, it's a much more justified decision.
Yeah, I do agree with this. And I agree with this phenomenon as well. And you wanted to say something, sorry.
I don't think it's only a matter of status. I think it's more
Sorry, a matter of?
status.
Of status.
Status. I think it has to do more with the socioeconomic situation because the unemployment rate, especially in young people, is very high.
You mean
So,
competition?
yes.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, this is also
when
true.
graduating university, it's
Yeah.
hard to find a job. That's why most people will set their focus towards getting more educated so they can be more
But
specialized.
think about where this comes from. Who sets those kind of requirements?
I say the
Society, yeah,
situation.
system.
The situation.
The system requires that.
Because
And the
if you-
system makes you actually gain false qualifications. The system pushes you towards, this symbol of status because you want to compete. Same as in China,
exactly
by the way.
because the competition is very high, the system
Yeah.
pushes you to be more specialized. So you, in order not to be unemployed, because if you
Have you ever applied for a
graduating-
job somewhere in those Western countries that I showed there? More individualistic. Have you ever applied, search for a job somewhere in Germany, in not Germany, in England, in the Nordic countries? Ever?
I have searched for trainerships or
For traineeships.
internships.
You're applying for a job. No, they will accept your CV. Nobody asks for evidence of your certificates, diplomas, and stuff. You declare that you have that. Later, because I have experienced that, they don't care about what certificates you have. You put everything that you have studied on your CV, and they take it for granted. They believe you. If needed at a later stage, they will ask you to prove something if they have some doubts about your performance. But the real documents are not that. And we focus on documents. So that's the main difference. And our systems are built like this, around documents, 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 high formality. And yeah, but I generally agree with everything that you say. Right. Here, I just wanted to mention one thing. If you look at the last point that I included, in small power distance, it is more likely to participate in protection of the environment over economic growth. In countries collectivists like ours, less likely to prioritize the protection of environment over economic growth. So this project would be much easy to do and run in a country which is more kind of individualistic and with, let's say, a higher, much higher GDP per capita and lower level of corruption. In our countries, this project is difficult. Your task as trainers is extremely difficult because it will be difficult to engage people, focus and attention on the problems and make them feel something about the problems. Anyway, so what I else wanted to show, you see how our kind of countries look in terms of power distance, attitudes to power and inequality, and collectivism in this case, which is in blue, collectivism, how cohesive our group is, to what degree the group is more important than the individual. So you see, very much alike. So Georgia has a higher power distance. Romania has a very high power distance, by the way. So
I'm sorry, what, maybe I've missed that part. What do you mean by power distance?
power distance is the level of inequality between social members and the attitudes to power. How, to what extent people agree and accept and expect the power to be distributed unequally within our society. We agree with that. If there is Putin in Russia, this will mean that the majority of people agree and expect such kind of type of. Do you understand what I mean? It is very difficult subject. So
So
but
when
just,
when I as a person accept that it's normal inequality, yes?
it is not about you as an individual. It applies to the group, to the national
Yeah.
group.
Yeah.
The average, majority of people. If you are
So
not
we are
happy,
tolerant to inequality, yes?
yes, higher tolerance to inequality. If
Yeah.
you are not happy with such high intolerance, it doesn't mean much, because the group, the bigger group, will agree. So you can't do much about the change. The only thing that you can do is just to run away or to accept. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Or start speaking to others about this. You have to involve them. To understand people behavior, once again, we need to understand how our own culture compares to others, how the Bulgarian culture compares to the Finnish culture, or to the British culture, or to the American, or to the Turkish, or to the Romanian culture. First, what are the main common types of personalities in my country, how family functions, what values are kind of shared, how the government and the political system actually are structured, how, all these things affect our lives, how satisfied we are. Historical events are also extremely important and have many questions. So one cycle of the so-called process model of sustainable entrepreneurship consists of two main factors: learning and practice. Whatever we actually learn will go around these two kind of principles, to know how and to know that whatever happens. So get the knowledge, learn, and put it in practice. I will not go in details through that. How can you become a role model and experiential facilitator? Try to create awareness of cultural and environmental issues. Somehow try to engage people emotionally into the problem. I mentioned that several times. Explain about the shocking pictures that I mentioned. Explain the negative consequences. If you can explain that through kind of experiments in class somehow, do it, show it, use lots of experiments to explain negative consequences. Encourage experiential learning into sustainable entrepreneurship. Use real case studies. This is very useful, as I said. Take examples from your own country, what happened in your own region, how the problem was solved, and encourage independent learning. So now, okay, so we don't have the time for the practice, unfortunately.
We
So,
can do it during the conference.
so you have this, let me just attract your attention to a handout in folders, which is, sorry. Okay. Check your folders with documents or the Google Drive folder and find the test, which is titled, I don't remember what was the title, experiential learning. Yeah, Kolb's learning style questionnaire. Yeah. So it consists of, as far as I remember, 80 questions or something. Yeah. Again, very simple, but that is very interesting, by the way, exercise. You put a tick. Each tick will mean 1 point if it applies to you or not. Then the calculation of results is very clear at the bottom. You put, the number, the number of points that you get for some particular questions in a specific box. Then it is very clearly explained. The instructions are very clear. Finally, you will identify your most preferred style as the four mains that I mentioned: theorist, activist, pragmatist, and reflector. You will Your results will fall in one of those categories. This is your self-study task for tomorrow. Okay. I'll come to check your homework, right? And from then on, this is a stage of the experiential learning. You come to school with this ready, and I look at your results. And I just check your dominant styles. I see you as an, let's say, activist, theorist, reflector. So everybody has their own dominant, main dominant. And then I make groups of 3 or 4 students with the same style. I'll gather, let's say, 3 reflectors in one group, 3 activists in one group, 3 theorists in one group. You see how it works? Right. And then I give you a task to do something. What is the task? I'll just mention it. The task is, so can you, Gracie, can you show a little bit my pictures there? They're not seen. What is the task? It should be creative, interesting, engaging, you know. The task is, you have 3 keywords. Think about a story, create a story, make up a story around 3 keywords. The 3 keywords are farmer, donkey, and mother-in-law. Why did I choose that? I chose them based on our cultural specifics. In all our countries, donkey is an important thing, right? You know what donkey is. If I give this to Japanese students or French, they will not get engaged that much. They don't know what donkey is. Mother-in-law has a special, are you married? What about your mother-in-law? This is the mother of your mother. Are you happy? Kind of lucky? She helps, she's expected to help, you know. So, but I think, for example, in Bulgaria, there are lots of jokes about mothers-in-law. They always have this negative kind of, in Turkey, it should be the same. Yeah, jokingly, you know. And that's why I decided. So 3 words, take these 3 words and make up a story. 3 theorists, 3 reflectors, 3, this will be for tomorrow. If you want. So I'm joking, but I would approach it like this. So you can use a similar approach. So I decided to include a joke just because it is more stimulating for students when they're tired at the end of the class and tired of theory and, you know, too much thinking. So they really enjoy such tasks. A little bit of fun or kind of laughter would help at the end and increase the retention of the everything. So it could be related here because if we are into agriculture, that's why I decided to choose this farmer and the donkey. And I will give you the real story. You can read the story.
There is a story.
Yeah, there is. You're not supposed to know it. This is just a joke.
We are ready.
Okay. Did you read it? Nobody is laughing.
Give us like 2 minutes. Okay.
Yeah. So you see, very short, but believe me, when people gather together in such small groups and they start thinking together, absolutely crazy, you know, scenarios can raise, and it is a great laughter. Some groups, the activists may decide to role play, for example. Theorist's story will be very boring. They will write short sentences based on facts. Yeah. So unfortunately, I have no time, guys. Thank you very much. So my reference list is here at the back. If you're interested, you can read more. Everything is inside. If you have any questions during the coffee break, okay? Thank you very much once again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nedi.